Who was the source of who asked me to come here?
No.
Who was the source of the direction?
No, we've already, no.
I'm sorry. Can you repeat the question?
Okay. Who prepared you for this testimony today?
No one. I prepared myself. I did have discussions, and I don't feel the need to talk about who I had those discussions for, but I didn't need preparation from anyone because I've lived this issue for the last year.
I would offer to you that your need to describe with whom you spoke is trumped by, or your lack of need is trumped by the public's right to know with whom you spoke. Since you're here because the administration asked you to be here.
They asked if I was willing to, and I was certainly willing to. If the committee asked that I come testify, I would have been willing to come on the committee's behalf as well.
I want to ask with whom you conferred and what was said.
And I'm not going to disclose those conversations. I think those are private conversations, and I don't need to disclose them. But as
you realize that you're inviting the legislature to pursue other means of obtaining this information, right?
About who I talked to? Well,
and what was said to you about what you should say today.
Okay.
And what you shouldn't say today. If any. Were any constraints placed in your testimony?
I am here on my own accord. I have experience in this regard. I've been part of this administration. I know some of the things that happened, and I felt like it was important to set the record straight.
Yeah, but you see, I don't buy the I'm here on my own accord line here for the following reason. I mean, we need to be very direct with each other, and here's why I don't get that. It isn't as though this hearing was announced. You happened walking down the street and said, you know, that would be a great thing for me to come speak, and I will unilaterally offer myself to be here. Someone said to you, it'd be great if you could be here. That's quite different from your unilaterally choosing to be present here today.
You know, believe it or not, and I know this may be hard to believe, I've been so fully vested in this issue for the last 3.5 years, but specifically for the last year. I'm intensely loyal to this governor, and I care very much about the implementation of this program. So I would have come if my grandma would have asked me to be here. I didn't need any push. I didn't need any coercion. I want to be here.
I'm asking that you were provided to you were coerced.
And I want to set the record straight. So I'm happy to be here, and I would have been here on the invitation of any one of you.
Not my question. Well, you're not going to answer the question about who asked you to be here, who prepared you for this testimony, what was said at any conferences you had, with whom you might have had any conferences. Is that correct?
Correct.
Let me go on now. We're just going to cast aspersions on one today rather than doing that. I'm curious, does the Undersecretary speak on behalf of the administration today?
Are you talking to me?
Yeah.
I'm the Deputy Secretary, and yes, I speak on behalf of the administration.
Okay. And do you believe that the testimony of either Dr. Sawyer or Ms. Witherspoon has been false, Stephanie?
I want to say that this is very hard for all of us, that this
he said, global warming continues
she said, and does anyone in this room or on this committee or on this panel disagree that the governor is committed to combating global warming, as is the legislature? No one questions that. I think that there were mischaracterizations by both the chairman and particularly the executive officer as to the involvement of the governor's office. And in fact, the legislature was also involved. We've had numerous meetings with legislature members and staff. And so I think there's been a lot of mischaracterizations and parts of the story.
What are the most important mischaracterizations by either of the Ms. Witherspoon or Dr. Sawyer?
The notion that the governor's office went beyond what is the normal coordination role, and that Cali PA was part of that, is, I think, the biggest mischaracterization. This governor is passionate about combating global warming and wants aggressive action. Even the statement about the early actions list, that there were these two that Catherine had to hide from the governor's office because the governor's office might somehow tell them that they weren't acceptable. I can only say, I mean, again, that I can't tell you the number of times that I asked, the number of times that the secretary asked, that we consider other actions for early action, and we were, told for various reasons that they didn't make sense. And so it's confusing in my mind when you get the staff pushing one direction and a misunderstanding about where the chairman would like to go. The board voted. The board said 3, and please staff, go back and look at others. We, the administration, support that vote. We would like the staff to go back and look at other early action strategies. We all want the same thing. We all want aggressive action to combat global warming and address all of the other air quality issues in the state.
Well, I want to talk about that, actually. You indicated earlier that there was confusion on all sides, and you attributed the confusion on the board side to a lack of leadership by Dr. Sawyer. On the administration side, you implied there was also confusion. You said there was confusion on all sides. How would you recommend we alleviate, or that confusion be alleviated?
I think that the appointment of Mary Nichols is a very good first start. And to be honest, as hard as all of this is, it has caused us to reflect on how we can work more closely together, how we can avoid this sense of over-meddling and nobody wants that. Everybody, at least that certainly the secretary, myself, those that I work with in the governor's office, has a tremendous amount of respect for the Air Board staff. And I will say that part of the reason that the governor signed the legislation was because of the respect that we all have for the Air Resources Board staff and their leadership. So what we need to do now is work with Mary Nichols as she pulls together her team, and